All right. What's going on, BC Lions and CFL fans? Welcome to season 8, episode 10. We're already 10 episodes in to our revival here of the BC Lions Den podcast. We're glad to have you with us, whether you're joining us live or catching us on the replay. I'm Brian Warishin, joined as always by my co-host Cole McGarvey. And before we get started, if you enjoy our content and you haven't subscribed yet, please head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@BCLionsDen, and hit that subscribe button. We're closing in on 100 subscribers, so let's keep that growing and help us get more eyes on the show. We also recommend watching the show on YouTube or Facebook, since it's the best place to join the conversation and have your comments featured live on the show. On this episode, we take a bit of time to talk about the Lions preseason game in Langford, though we won't spend a lot of time on it. A few players shined, a few probably had their shine wear off, and now we look forward to the final preseason tune-up in Winnipeg on Friday when the Lions take on the Bombers. That game should give us a better look at how the projected starters for the Lions will look. To help us preview that from a Bombers perspective, we'll be joined by an old friend of the podcast, Darrin Bauming of Bonfire Sports in Winnipeg. Last time we talked to Darrin, he was with TSN Radio, but has started a new thing with Bonfire the last couple of years and continues to have his finger on the pulse of the Bombers. Let's check in with Cole now. How's it going, sir?
Oh, I'm doing well, Brian. Thank you for having me in once again. Excited to chat some more Lions football. Excited to have DB in and preview this Friday's game. And then we can kind of put to bed the preseason and really start to Saturday morning. We'll get, I believe, his final cuts, Brian. So we'll really get to see a true shape of this roster and how it's going to take place. Obviously, unfortunately for us, the Lions are on a week 1 bye, so we will have that little bit of a lull. The team will be practicing, obviously, but it is exciting time of year because the regular season is right here. This time next week, we'll be 1 day away from the regular season kicking off on Thursday. So it's good, Brian. It's giving me a little bit of energy today for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I know you were, first of all, I'm going to full disclosure here. I can barely turn my neck right now. The old 57-year-old body is feeling things. I woke up this morning with a kink in my neck, and I couldn't turn my head to the left. And then I took a shower, and I was getting dressed for work, and I reached up to grab a shirt, and I sneezed, and then the right side went. So I'm kind of like doing this today all day. So a little bit of pain, but we're going to play hurt.
I was going to say, Brian plays hurt. Don't ever say that he doesn't.
We're going to play through the injury here and keep on trucking through. Yeah, I don't think we're going to spend a lot of time talking about last week's game. 2s and 3s, the result wasn't, unexpected. 34-16 loss, you never really want to brush that aside, but I'd be much more concerned if there was more starters playing in that game. The Elks brought a lot of starters to start the game. They kind of tailed off in the second half, but I think they have to be pretty happy with how they played, especially with their quarterback depth. I thought Taylor Powell had a nice day throwing the ball for the Elks and really kind of picked apart the Lions in the second quarter, second half. But as far as, the starters go, I don't think Cody Fajardo could be too happy with the way he played against, basically Lions backups. They were only down 7 points at halftime, and that's something they can build on. But there were some good performances as well.
Yeah, and, speaking about Cody Fajardo, I believe they got him smoked pretty early on. I was able to, Brian, as you know, I wasn't able to catch the game live, but shout out to, Waters 27 and CFL, the CFL Replays YouTube channel that posts the full games on YouTube. Super helpful for when you do have occasions like this and you have birthdays, weddings, whatever occasions going on, and you're able to go back and watch the game, especially commercial free, Brian, I might say, is pretty good. So I was able to go back, rewatch the game a little bit. And yeah, obviously maybe not ideal circumstances down there in Langford with the loss, but I think there were some flashes. Specifically I want to mention a few Canadians. Obviously one of our draft picks, Pierre Kimeni, started at safety for us on the weekend. He had interception. He was also making plays on special teams. From all accounts we've heard, he's been quite the playmaker up in Kamloops as well. So the Lions kind of really developing this nice pipeline of Canadian safeties with, obviously Jackson Finley, but we have Christophe Boyer coming back from injury. Josh Haggerty's kind of like that, safety by position, but also plays a ton of special teams. I feel like Pierre Kameni can kind of come in this year on this roster, carve out a very fine role on special teams, and who knows what he could, develop into, say 2-3 years from now. Injuries happen. We saw it last year with Jackson Finley having to be thrust in the lineup, with Bull Hugo down to injury. So it was nice to see Kameni kind of, make some plays when he had the spotlight on him. And Nate DeMontignac, I know he kind of left the game a little bit banged up, but makes one pretty highlight reel catch. The target he was able to catch the balls and kind of make some plays out of it, and you could see that he had some real swagger to him, some energy. He was really ready for his opportunity and kind of took it and ran with it. So it was a bummer that he left it with a little bit of a bum shoulder, I believe. But from everything coming out of Kamloops, it's nothing too serious. Hopefully he'll be ready maybe for the regular season. And from all accounts, it's a pretty good showing in his first CFL pro action, I should say, to go out there, catch the balls that were thrown his way, make some plays, and it was a good showing. And as you said, Brian, 2s and 3s, it's preseason action. Obviously, you don't want to dumb down a loss or anything like that. But as you said, Edmonton bringing a lot of their vets, BC kind of keeping some of their vets home for this upcoming road trip, when understanding having that week 1 bye, not wanting to have your veterans off for too long. So I would think we're going to get a better look at and maybe some of our normal players, hopefully this upcoming Friday.
Yeah. Chase Bryce, I thought, acquitted himself quite well too, and I think that was important for the Lions to see that. Ryan Rigmaiden, I read an article today, said they've always had confidence in Chase. I'm not so sure that they were 100% confident that he was the right guy for the job, but I think he acquitted himself very well, and he showed good command of the offense. He looked poised. He was going through his receivers, threw a nice touchdown pass to Hergy Mayala. So I think that was a performance that not only the Lions, but I think Lions fans needed to see from Chase Bryce to ease their concerns a little bit about QB2. But the Canadian receivers, like you said, you mentioned DeMontignac. We've been talking all preseason about the Lions wanting to dress that third Canadian receiver so they can dress the extra import on the offensive line, and I think they're in a good position to do that now because some of these guys have stepped up. Kieran Passant also had a nice catch in that game and showed that he's going to contribute. Nick Senecal had a couple catches, more pedestrian type, check down passes that he caught. But at the same time, those are 3 options that the Lions have to add to that Canadian receiver pool, and I think that that's going to bode well for them with their plans for the offensive line.
Yeah, and it seems like Hergy Mayala's Sharpied himself into the starting lineup almost at this point, right, Brian? I know from the start of camp, it was kind of a little bit of Passant, a little bit of Mayala in there, but for the last, I would say 7-8 days, from all accounts, it's been more Hergy that's kind of been running with the ones more consistently. We see our friend up there in Kamloops that's been reporting. Is it Lauren E, I believe? And he's been saying that, that Mayala's been arguably, number 2 or number 3 in targets. So he's been very active in camp, and it was good to see him be able to translate that to a live action game, able to haul in the 1 touchdown. I don't believe he was targeted other than that. So 1 for 1 with a touchdown, not too bad. Made the plays when the ball came his way. So that was definitely a nice showing for the Lions on Saturday, excuse me.
So obviously this week they head into Winnipeg. Always interesting when the Lions visit the Bombers, but I think we'll see a lot more of the starters. I'm not sure what Winnipeg's plans are. We'll talk to Darrin about that in a minute here. But how much do you play Nathan Rourke in this game? I don't see more than a couple series. If he has some success, if the Lions offense can stay on the field for a couple series, I think that would probably be enough for Nathan Rourke. I don't see any need to risk any further injury to Nathan Rourke in this game. What are your thoughts on how much he should play?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? You have Saskatchewan, who's also in a similar situation. They also have a bye this upcoming week, so that not only do they have the week 1 bye, they have the week 3 preseason bye, so they're going to have 2 weeks off until they play again. Nathan, how much do you play him? I would go with 2 series, which I think is basically about a quarter of game action. I would think you get him a little bit of reps. For me personally, I would love to see him hand the ball off a majority of the time, a little bit of play action, and maybe take a few shots downfield. But as I said, down in Langford, we saw Cody get an early shot on him. I think that was maybe a little bit what led to him kind of coming out pretty quickly down in Langford, as well as it just being a preseason game. But I would like to see Nathan probably play around a quarter and get a little bit of game action, just so the rust isn't there come week 2.
All right. Well, let's get to our featured guest now and head into the Lion's Den with Darrin Bauming. All right, Darrin Bauming. It's been a long time since we've had a chat with you. I think the last time we chatted, you were with TSN. We've been dormant for a couple of years and just kind of resurrected the podcast this year. So welcome back to the show.
I appreciate being on with you guys. It has been a while, but yeah, looking forward to. Hey, it's spring, right? I don't know how the weather is out on the West Coast. It's beautiful here on the prairies. It's football season. Let's go.
Yeah, it was warm today. A little cool the last couple of days, but it warmed up today for sure. Before we get started with the Bombers, maybe talk a little bit about Bonfire Sports. As I mentioned, the last time I think we talked, you were with TSN Radio in Winnipeg, and this is something new for you. Well, not new for you. I guess you've been doing it for a couple of years now, but tell us how that came about and how things are going with Bonfire.
Yeah, after 9 years with TSN Radio and TSN TV and digital and doing all types of work for Bell, they, us along with a handful of stations across the country in kind of a 2-year period, shuttered the doors. So a lot of us here in Winnipeg had to make a decision. And for me, I wanted to keep working in sports. I wanted to keep doing shows and especially talking about, football and Canadian football. So myself, Chris Walby, Troy Westwood, those two Blue Bombers Hall of Famers, and Chris, obviously 10 years with CBC calling Grey Cups as well. We did about 6 years of pre and post game kind of wraparound coverage on game days on TSN Radio. And Walby and I are like, let's keep doing this, right? We still wanted to just talk football, and YouTube was the perfect opportunity to do that. So Chris and I still do pregame coverage every single Bombers game, home and away. He's kind of getting he's getting the veteran treatment at training camp right now. So he's taken off the 2 preseason games. We did that last year as well. But he's going to join me. We always do it the day before the game. We go live on our YouTube. I think you guys, your viewers, and I appreciate you letting me shout it out. Bonfire WPG. That's where you can find out all of our social media channels, our YouTube as well. We go live the day before the game, and then we go live immediately after the game. Chris, he likes having some cold ones while he's watching his former team. So Zach Schnitzer has been my co-host on our post-game show, Game Day After Dark. We cut highlights during the game. So we do a live stream, take fan and viewer questions and comments and get the conversation going. And then we watch highlights from the game. Like I play them right in the show. So it's better than Sports Center, dare I say it, because we can, watch a play over and over again and have a conversation about it, controversial plays, whatever the topic du jour is. And it's been tons of fun. I mean, every year, more and more people are watching. Audience continues to grow. Great fan base across the country, in the U.S. as well. Lots of players, families, tune in, download the podcast or whatever. It's been tons of fun. I think you guys can probably speak directly to how unique these opportunities are for people to do live streams, people to do digital content on YouTube, on podcast, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. It's pretty great, and fans seem to be responding to it as well. So we could talk football, or hockey or whatever. I'll take it. It's been tons of fun.
Good stuff. Yeah, Chris Walby's a beauty. I remember going to Grey Cups and his Walby Warriors parties were epic. And
yes,
I remember chatting with him and comparing our hand sizes, and I think his were like 3 times the size of mine. Just massive paws, but really good guy to talk to as well about football. Yeah, I hear you on the post game stuff. We're going to try and do some of that this year, because since TSN 1040 died in Vancouver, we only get maybe 30 minutes post game, and then that's it. So we're going to try and fill some of that void as well. But Darrin, let's get into the Bombers now a little bit. 10-8 last year, had to settle for the crossover spot in a year they were hosting the Grey Cup. I'm sure that was a pretty big disappointment to the club. But for years now, the Bombers have kind of been that model of consistency and building that culture in Winnipeg. and they've done a great job at that. This year, they kind of went away from that philosophy a little bit, hit free agency hard. A lot of people kind of think they're kind of loading up for one last run with this core group. Is that how you see things?
Absolutely. 100% that's what they're doing. You have a 40-year-old left tackle who's going to be in the Hall of Fame, Stanley Bryant. They signed Jarrell Broxton from the BC Lions. I thought this was a genius move because when you have Stanley, who's an Iron Man at left tackle, and you sign Jarrell Broxton, if anything happens, you kick over an all CFL tackle like Jarrell Broxton to left tackle to protect your quarterback's blind side. And then frankly, they got a lot of depth amongst Americans, in their O-line group right now. You throw someone in at right tackle, suddenly your O-line, even if you lose, maybe your most important player, they're going to be still rock solid. So I thought that was a genius free agent move. Adding Tommy Neild, a Canadian, just frankly, a clutch game-breaking receiver. He's, broken the hearts of the Bombers in each of the last two Grey Cups. He's been, in two Grey Cups of their 3 straight losses the past couple years. But, a great addition to, Nick Dembski and Ontario Wilson, who joined the team mid last season after some time in the NFL. Tim White, this guy has been super busy all through training camp. Him and Zach Collaros reunited. Offensive coordinator Tommy Condell. You want to talk about free agents? I mean, that's a huge upgrade at offensive coordinator from a rookie they had in Jason Hogan, who's still with the team. But last year was his first year as an offensive coordinator, and the offense did struggle with him. But Brady Oliveira, those free agent signings in the receiving core, those are some nice pieces. They add Jonathan Moxey in the defensive backfield. I think that's a great addition for my money. And I know you guys out in BC have had exemplary play at defensive halfback spot for a number of years with, TJ Lee and Gary Peters and so many others that are versatile in that back end. But Evan Holm and Dietrich Nichols, for my money right now, the best defensive halfbacks in the CFL today. Adding Moxie to that group. They signed Javan Santos-Knox at linebacker. He suffered a season-ending injury on day one of training camp, coming back to Winnipeg where he started his CFL career. That was a heartbreaking thing for a great player and even better person. But adding Jake Serezna to the interior of the defensive line, huge free agent get, great motor, exactly what they need to take some of the pressure, pardon the pun, but take some of that load off of the shoulders of Willie Jefferson, who, for being in his mid-30s, I think is just as productive as he has been, or will be just as productive this year as he has been the last couple years, leading the league in knockdowns as a defensive lineman with 16 last year. Second was Dietrich Nichols, who's a halfback, right? So he's still effective, just doing it in different ways. But adding Serezna to that defensive line group, I think was a great addition. Winnipeg is definitely trying to take one more swing to get to a 6th Grey Cup in 7 years and try to win their 3rd since they captured that first one back in 2019. That broke a 29-year drought here in Winnipeg. Collaros is getting older. Willie Jefferson's getting older. I talked about Stanley Bryant being an ageless 40 years old and still playing at a high level. They absolutely know that the time is now. The window is still open, but it's going to be tough because the West Division is absolutely loaded. And, maybe this will lead into a question you guys will ask me in a second, but I'll spoil it now. I have the BC Lions winning the Grey Cup in 2026. I just think everything is going to come together under Ryan Rigmaiden and Buck Pierce. Saskatchewan being the defending champs. I expect Edmonton to be better. Calgary, I'm not sure. It's going to be tough for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but they're definitely going to take one more kick at the can here and try to get the most out of an aging core, but one that they still believe, and I still believe can be a winner. I just got the Lions this year with Nathan Rourke playing the way he is. Combine that with Buck Pierce, the work Ryan Rigmaiden's done. I can't say enough. I picked the Riders to win it last year, guys, 12 months ago. So maybe that's a good omen for your fan base out there. I got the Lions in 2026.
DB,
Cool.
good to see you. Thank you. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. It's been a while since we've chatted, but I wanted to start. You mentioned Tommy Condell, and obviously Jason Hogan, the rookie offense coordinator from last year, transitioning from that. And when you pair, an offense that's going to, hang their hat on a Brady Oliveira-led offense, whether he's running the ball or catching the ball from Zach, you pair it with a guy, a gunslinger like Zach. How do you think the offensive identity will change and kind of evolve from last year, as it was a little bit stale? It was kind of, some comments in the media from players and whatnot. And how will we evolve under a more veteran coach like Tommy Condell?
Yeah, Cole, that's a great question. And it's a great question because it's the one people here in Winnipeg are wondering most about. You have Brady Oliveira, you have this, hard-nosed, lunch pail, hard hat type, workman-like offensive line. Winnipeg football is ball control, bully ball, right? They like to just run it down teams' throats and play ball possession. And yeah, Collaros has historically been a gunslinger, but later into it with him, it's more about just finding seams and trying to be that tendency breaker. That they're going to go to Brady Oliveira. That he is going to get be 1,000-yard rusher, and they're going to rely on him to be that, to be a 500-600-yard receiver. They're going to rely on him to be that. But Tommy Condell, historically, you look at his time in Ottawa the last couple of years, and maybe more so his time in Hamilton prior to that, he has not run the football. He's almost abandoned it completely. And, people will say, okay, well, that's innovation. That's, Canadian football or pro football, frankly, in the 21st century. And I would agree with that. So it'll be absolutely fascinating once they truly open up the playbook. I don't think we're going to see it on Friday here in Winnipeg and in the preseason game against the Lions. I don't think we saw it last week against the Rough Riders. It's going to be the regular season when, things go beyond vanilla. They start to put in, some streaks of chocolate and strawberry and put some sprinkles on there, get deeper into those pages of the playbook where we're really going to see what Tommy Condell has, in this new iteration and, remarriage, if you will, with Zach Collaros, a quarterback that he knows well and has worked directly with. I think it's going to be a balanced attack. I think Tommy Condell is smart enough and innovative enough to work with what he has. And when you have a punch you in the mouth offensive line and you have a power runner who is capable of being the most outstanding player in the CFL every single year over the last 5 years in Brady Oliveira, it would be foolhardy to not use that. I won't say bread and butter, but really to be a foundation of what works. And in the CFL today, with so many different personnel packages, defenses have, going to 7 defensive backs, sometimes even 8 with, versatile linebacker body types, the different rush packages and blitz packages and double safeties and all these, creative things that we're seeing the last number of years in the CFL and especially more so the last year or two. I think Winnipeg is going to try to keep defenses off balance and say, we're going to show run, we're going to run. We're going to show run, and we're going to pass. They're going to do different things out of, similar sets and similar personnel packages. The way that they've drafted the last couple years, Dante Daniels, who, and pardon my language, I don't know how you guys are on your show, but the Blue Bombers put out a social media post during the draft where general manager Kyle Walters said, wait till you see this kid, shit kicking blocker, mean MFer, in Dante Daniels at North Carolina State. Mean dude, this is the big physical tight end that can be a 50-50 ball receiver. Kevin Sklercius, similar Canadian that was in U Sports, came out of U Sports. He's in that role. Michael Chris Ike, physical specimen, fullback, running back, tight end type. They'll bring in that 6th offensive lineman. They'll do some double tight end sets with one of those big receivers. They're going to still play smash mouth football, but they're going to catch defenses off guard if all they do is, pay attention to the run game. Zach Collaros can still throw the football. He's making all the throws in camp. I think last year was a big down year for him. I think he wants to show everybody that he's still got a lot of football left in him.
I want to just touch on of course, Lions fans are interested in how Jarrell Broxton's doing. I think obviously he's probably going to slide over to the right side with Stanley Bryant, a mainstay at the left tackle there. We talked to Ryan Rigmaiden earlier this preseason, and we talked about guys moving from the right to the left. How has Broxton looked on the right side? Has it been a challenge? Has there been an adjustment for him? And, you know, obviously, I guess he would be the heir apparent when Stanley Bryant decides to retire at 60 years of age or whenever it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's always tough to tell in training camp, you know, what kind of reps you're getting. You know, the pad, they're not in the pads much, right? That's just the reality of the CFL these days. But, you know, you watch the one-on-ones. That's kind of my favorite part, you know, like the receivers and the DBs go off and do their thing in some of their one-on-one drills or individual drills. But watching the linebackers and the D linemen go against the offensive line one-on-one is the best part of training camp for my dollar, outside of maybe the 12-on-12 reps. But Broxton, I mean, he comes as advertised, right? Not only is he technically sound and obviously, you know, a very high caliber, smart player that's seen it all in you know, some outstanding years in the Canadian Football League, but he's big and he is strong and he can bully guys around. So yeah, of course, there's going to be an adjustment anytime a guy moves from left tackle to right tackle, but you know, training camp's really tough to kind of decipher those things. I haven't had a chance to talk to Jarrell one-on-one or anything like that about that switch. But, you know, again, with the talent around him, you know, having a veteran, you know, in Pat Neufeld, who I think he's at, you know, 14, 15 years in the CFL now, as his left guard, that's a very stable spot. It's not like he's playing with somebody inexperienced. So, you know, I think those sorts of things help a lot. And I can't say enough about Marty Costello. He's been the Blue Bombers offensive line coach for, gosh, probably a decade now, since Bob Wiley, you know, moved back to the NFL. And he's kind of one of the disciples of the legendary offensive line coach that is Bob Wiley. So you look at the line play, you look at Stanley Bryant's trophies that he's pulled in year after year, and, you know, the MOP seasons that their running back has had. You know, this offensive line is coached well. You know, they're a tight-knit group. I think Jarrell is probably going to, you know, handle it as smoothly as anybody could. He's a very talented football player, and gosh, he is big. I couldn't believe it when, you know, I saw him at a Winnipeg Sea Bears game. They play against the Vancouver Bandits in the CEBL. You know, I announced at those games, and to see him courtside, you know, with Stanley Bryant and you know, a couple of his teammates, that, like, man, the arms on that guy are like ham hocks, like a pig that, you know, is 10 years old and you know, maybe should have been at the butcher decades ago. He's a big boy, man. I'm looking forward to seeing him in this kind of bully ball Blue Bombers offense.
Yeah, DB, you talked about Zach wanting to be better last year, and I think if you asked the receivers, they probably would have wanted to be better for him. Talk a little bit about maybe your expectations for this receiver group. Obviously, you mentioned Tim White and the addition of him coming over and him already kind of developing this great chemistry with Zach Collaros. You obviously have the great Nick Dempsey. I know he's been a little bit banged up. I think he's missed the last maybe 9-10 days or whatever, but you know, he's going to be good come the regular season. It's death taxes and Zach Collaros to Nick Dempsey on the corner route, and nobody knows how to stop it for whatever reason. But talk about the expectations from the receiver room and how you think they're going to be able to be there for Zach, maybe a little bit better compared to last year.
Yeah, it's amazing. I just got to speak on Nick Dempsey, you know, a Winnipeg kid, you know, him, Brady Oliveira, going back to Andrew Harris. So many of these skill position guys come out of the West End of Winnipeg. But Nick, it seems like he's like a fine wine. He gets better with age. And maybe while the straight line speed isn't what it was when he was tearing things up for the Manitoba Bisons. And I'm not saying he's lost his speed, but when you're in your 30s, you know, you're not as fast as you were when you were 24, 25, 26 years old. But he just seems to, you know, he just seems to get open. I don't know what it is, but he finds space. And whether that's, you know, because he's a Canadian kid and he's played on these CFL fields, you know, since he was a little kid, and the fact that he's just a great athlete. Like, I mean, if Nick Dempsey wasn't playing football, I have no doubt he would have played in the WHL. Like, he is an incredible skater, an incredible hockey player. I always tell people, have you ever seen Nick play hockey? Like, man, just a pure athlete, and pure athletes, I think, regardless of age, they find ways to beat their opponent with their mind as much as their body, especially as time goes on. So he is such a key piece of this Blue Bombers offense, hitting 1,000 yards receiving. Now that he is a little bit more of a focal point of this offense, I think Ontario Wilson is somebody, because he has kind of been, with the Bombers and in the CFL, but then it's either been injury or then time in the National Football League. I don't think a lot of people know who Ontario Wilson is, but he is in that upper echelon. You give him a full season of health, and in the CFL, I think he can be in that conversation with Keyshawn Johnson, with Hatcher, with Eugene Lewis, with those top receivers in the CFL today. But man, I touched on it earlier. You guys just wait till you see Tim White in this offense. It seems like him and Zach Collaros, they've been playing together for 10 years or something. The chemistry is there. You watch that opening drive when Winnipeg played all of their ones in Saskatchewan and that preseason, Winnipeg's preseason opener. It was Tim White for 22, Tim White for 15. Brady Oliveira ran for a yard, and then another 20-yard shot to Tim White again that put them on the doorstep. They punched it in with Oliveira, and it was a touchdown, and Collaros' day was done. That is what we have seen in camp for the last 3 weeks. It's been a ton of Tim White. I feel like him rejoining Tommy Condell and Zach Collaros, he feels like $1 million. He's looking like it right now too. So the receiving core is, add in some young guys to that. Dorian Singer, there's a rookie people can keep an eye on. Dorian Singer has been very impressive as well. But talented, deep group. Tommy Neild is your number 3, or kind of your number 4. I think he would be a number 3 on most teams. This is a deep group. Lots of weapons for Collaros to work with this year.
Let's talk a little bit about what's behind Zach Collaros. And after what seemed like a long wait and a ton of unsolicited fan advice, Taylor Eldersma made his way to Winnipeg finally after some visa issues in the UFL. Had a bit of a rough preseason game last week, 6 of 13, 2 interceptions. I think he ran for 18 or 19 yards. What are your thoughts on how he's looked? The training camp reviews have been glowing, but obviously there's going to be a learning curve there.
Yeah, I mean, it's young in the quarterback room behind Zach Collaros, right? Taylor Eldersma is a rookie. Yeah, training camp with the Green Bay Packers last year, had a handful of workouts for NFL teams. Tried to get on with the Birmingham Stallions in the UFL, and it was work visa issues that kind of stalled that out. But he's more than people like. You always have to kind of temper the hype, right? Like there's a lot of hype about Taylor Eldersma. People in Winnipeg waiting for him to come to the Blue Bombers after getting drafted, and it's unique and different than Nathan Rourke because this is a U Sports kid. He's out of Wilfrid Laurier. He grew up playing this game, and he's a different body type than Nathan Rourke. Rourke, obviously, we know what he can do with his legs, much more shifty, much more, I would say, athletic. But that's not saying Taylor Eldersma is not athletic. He's 6'4". He is a pocket quarterback. He has great feet. He's able to move around and move the pocket if they want to. But what's maybe most impressive about him is that he makes all of the throws. And I mean all of the throws. I don't care if you come out of the SEC or the Big Ten or whatever, or if you come out of, 5 years in the NFL, bouncing around from team to team, and you got this big arm. You come to the CFL, you look at that 63.5-yard wide field or whatever it is, and fingers crossed it doesn't change. But you see those guys and they look at that deep out when they're on the wide hash, and it's like, that's a long throw on that 5-yard out to your slot back. Taylor Eldersma has been throwing that since he was a kid. Maybe not as well as he has now, but he can make all of the throws. He wants to work on his touch. He wants to work on the nuances of the game, but great feet, huge arm, super smart guy. Like just the way he deals with the media guys, it's like you're talking to a 30-year-old, but he's like, man, he's 24 and, was in college like a year and a half ago. So it's kind of nuts to see that. And then you kind of have to temper the hype that comes with it. But right now, I'll say this. Taylor Elgersma is the second best quarterback the Blue Bombers have today. If they had to play a game and they needed to win, like if Friday night against the Lions was a regular season game, I think they would probably go with Bryce Perkins. He's a Super Bowl champion. He played and started a game for the Los Angeles Rams, worked under Sean McVay, was a UFL MVP, Birmingham Stallions as well, coincidentally, in 2025. He has that pro experience. He has that, presence in the huddle, in the pocket, just watching the way he communicates, send guys around. He'll stop, like he'll be working with the second team or the third team offense, and he'll stop a rookie and be like, okay, your motion's a little quick, go back, let's reset. He is veteran. He is sharp. These are both CFL rookies behind Zach Collaros. But Bryce Perkins has that experience right now where I think he is probably the number 2. Who's the short yardage guy? I'm not sure. But right now, I think if Zach Collaros wasn't available, they would go to Bryce Perkins. Midway through the season, I think, maybe into next year and then the year after, it's no doubt going to be Taylor Elgersma's team. And look, he's going to have that conversational connection with Nathan Rourke, being an incredibly talented Canadian-born quarterback. Nathan Rourke needed a year and a half under Michael Riley. I think Taylor Elgersma is going to get the same sort of thing here in Winnipeg under Zach Collaros. Those are 2 great veteran quarterbacks, winning pedigree quarterbacks in the CFL for these young guys to learn under, or Rourke did. Winnipeg is hoping Taylor Elgersma has that similar development curve that Rourke has had, because right now Rourke is not just the best quarterback in the CFL, he's the best player.
I just want to piggyback off that a little bit, and maybe you can touch on what happened with Terry Wilson and Peyton Thorne. They decided, I guess, that the depth chart wasn't for them. It wasn't looking in their favor. Yeah. Is that what it basically boiled down to? Is they just didn't see a place here for them?
Yeah. Michael Shea, simply said that he had good conversations with these guys. They, came into his office and said they were ready to move on from football. Initially, both of these guys were placed on the suspended list. Now, that's not like a, junior high, like you're suspended, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
It's, that
Keep
contract is being in suspension, right? Yeah. So they still have his rights. Peyton Thorne, new to the CFL, true rookie, SEC, Auburn, Michigan State, high pedigree guy. I think he saw the writing on the wall. Terry Wilson, different story, 3 years with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And we saw a little bit of him through the years, but it was Collaros, it was Chris Streveler. They never really went to Terry Wilson. And when they did, it was like a beautiful football, a beautiful pass, couple nice plays, and then a bad mistake. And he also, decided to leave the team, placed on the suspended list. And then the team ended up releasing him. I heard from somebody, and I trust them, that, his wife or his girlfriend, got on social media, got a little critical of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and their staff. And I think that was just kind of a final straw situation. So Winnipeg decided to release him. I think it honestly was. You have this young stud Canadian who, it doesn't matter if you're new to the CFL or you're a veteran, American or Canadian, the value of those guys with that Canadian passport, even at quarterback. And then a UFL MVP, a veteran, an experienced guy who has all the tools in Bryce Perkins. I think those other 2 guys were just like, man, I don't think I want to take a practice roster spot. I'm going to go back home and assess my options. So that's what happened with those 2 guys. But I think it speaks a lot about, what Taylor Elgersma brings. And then I think, Bryce Perkins coming as advertised as well. When you're a professional football MVP, even if it is the UFL, you're the best player, the offensive player of the year and the most valuable player in the United Football League in 2025. It's hard to, unseat that when all of these guys were, fighting for a number 2, number 3 spot.
Last one for you, DB, here from me. Got to ask you about a guy that I think arguably outside of, or as far as non-Lions go, is probably my favorite player, but that's Willie Jefferson. You already brought him up. You brought up Jake Serezna as well, and the impact that could have. I think everything just comes back to Willie. You talk about last season and maybe it being a down year in terms of sack numbers, but his impact, because he's lining up all over the defensive line. They slide him inside. You talked about the pass deflections as well as, if he's not getting to the quarterback, he's still affecting play. I think if I was to maybe critique Matthew Betts for as great of a player as he is, that impact outside of if he's not able to get sacks, can you find another avenue to get home, whether it's tackles for loss, whatever it may be? Just talk about kind of your expectations for Willie going into another season of you just kind of business as usual and expect him to perform.
Yeah, I think, people will be surprised to hear it. Like, I think one of the most valuable things Willie Jefferson brings is leadership. He is an incredibly mature, experienced, high character guy. Not that surprises people, but people see Willie Jefferson, the long athletic freak that he is, the pick sixes, the knockdowns, leading the league in knockdowns, having years where he's double digits in knockdowns and sacks. And it's incredible the career that he has put together, strip sacks, forced fumbles, tackles for loss. This guy's a first ballot Hall of Famer. So when you talk about something beyond those athletic abilities of his, I think it catches people by surprise. Since day one in Winnipeg, Willie Jefferson, after practice, goes to the jugs machine and works with the receivers. Okay. Willie J, when he was at Baylor University, like him and Josh Gordon were very close friends. And Josh Gordon, of course, the NFL wide receiver who's, everybody seems to remember who Josh Gordon is for a variety of reasons. But, Willie J is a receiver at heart. I truly believe that. So he's on the jugs machine, throwing, catching balls and throwing balls and working with the receivers. He does that just as a D lineman, just as a leader on the team, which I think says a lot about him. And it really kind of just, when you have this Hall of Fame, maybe the best player on the defensive side of the ball, arguably every single year in the entire league, going and working with rookie receivers every single day after practice from rookie camp. He shows up at rookie camp in sweatpants and cleats, and he's talking with guys. That's the kind of guy Willie Jefferson is. As far as on the field, defensive coordinator Jordan Younger is he's doing things on defense that I haven't seen before. Watching the NFL, watching the CFL for a long time. I'm no expert, but he's doing things that I have not seen. And last year, it was a very maligned fan base with they're rushing 2, they're rushing 3, they're dropping, 8, 9 guys into coverage sometimes. It's kind of, taking that Chris Jones, tons of pressure on first down, force second and long, drop everybody on second and long, and that kind of school of Chris Jones defense, the past 10 years. Jordan Younger's taking that and evolving it into something else. If you asked me today who the starting 12 are on the Blue Bombers defense, I would give you 15 or 16 names, and all of them would be in that starting 12 because they play, a joker linebacker. It's like a middle linebacker that is all over the place with Tony Jones. They play 2, 3 weak side linebackers. They play 2 strong side linebackers or dime backers, right? They'll play double safety. They'll bring the safety down. They're doing all types of crazy stuff, all types of crazy stuff. So when you have someone like Willie Jefferson, you add a motor like Jake Serezna at tackle, Cam Lawson, they're going to start a rookie at the other defensive end. I want to mention his name because I think Deshaun Dixon, I think he's going to be a very good football player. They've got, when you got that Willie Jefferson and Jake Serezna combo, you can kind of let them tee off and know the sack numbers won't be there, but it's because they're doing all of these weird things in the linebacking core and in the defensive backfield. So Winnipeg doesn't care about sacks. They don't care about tackles. They don't care about knockdown. They don't care about any of that. They care about points against. Bend, don't break was the Richie Hall credo, and Richie is still on the staff. Jordan Younger, now the defensive coordinator. Winnipeg plays a very unconventional defensive style of football. Yeah, I would say for the CFL fans out there, watch Winnipeg's defense. If you ever get an opportunity to, if TSN ever pulls out a little bit so we can actually see what's going on, a little bit wider than the line of scrimmage, you might you'd be surprised with some of the creativity they're doing this year.
You mentioned Deshaun Dixon. There was a story about him having a pretty intense battle at camp with Stanley Bryan on one of the training camp sessions. But I did want to ask you about your 4th overall pick and newer. I hope I say this right. Newer Gatquath, Canadian defense. Yeah. Gatkuth, okay. Yeah. Canadian defensive lineman from Wake Forest, 4th overall in the draft. He signed with the Denver Broncos. Didn't make it out of their mini camp. How has he looked in camp so far, and is he looking like he's a player?
Yeah, I mean, this guy's an athlete, like pure athlete. Sometimes with those top picks, I think you just try to find the guy that has all the physical tools, right? And I think that's what the Blue Bombers did. It's a position they traditionally like having Canadians, not so like, defensive tackle, of course, that's always been a Canadian spot, but defensive end, they've always had Canadian defensive ends, even global defensive ends going back to Teodric Hansen, right? He's probably got, work to do on his strength and his size. I think he probably want to put on some weight, but he is quick. He's tons of burst and explosion. I don't think, at least in the first half of the season, he's going to be somebody we see on the defensive line. It'll be curious to see how his development comes, but I really think that newer Gatkuth is somebody that they're looking towards maybe 2027 of being a Canadian starter on that defensive line. Look, that's the reality. Maybe the Gatkuth family will, send me some nasty letters right now and say, what are you talking about? And maybe I'll be wrong, but I think that he'll need this year of development, play on special teams, continue to work with, a very veteran laden group on the defensive line. And I think he has all the tools and ability to be an excellent player in this league.
Before we let you go, do you have any idea what kind of lineup the Bombers are going to dress this week? They played quite a few starters last week. Are they going to ease back on that, or they are playing in week 1? So what do you think their plan is there? So
last week in Saskatoon against the Rough Riders, the Riders played a ton of their starters. Winnipeg played a ton of their starters. I don't think Winnipeg has an issue playing their number 2s and number 3s against BC starters. I think we're going to see a little bit deeper into the lineup. I don't think they're going to play, a lot of their number 1s in this preseason game. Hey, throw guys in the fire. Iron sharpens iron. We'll see what some of these young guys that are fighting for a roster spot can do against, BC's number 1s. I think the Lions are going to dress a pretty veteran heavy lineup, aren't they? Yeah, they didn't dress anybody last week, so they're going to want to, with the bye week in week 1, I think they're going to want to get some game rest knocked off. Darrin, great chatting with you again. We would love to do it again as we go through the season. Let everyone know where they can find your content and Bombers coverage. Appreciate that. Yeah, you guys call me anytime. Love talking football with you guys, and appreciate you giving me the ability to shout out Bonfire Sports. Bonfiresports.ca, at Bonfire WPG. I mean, if you go to the website, bonfiresports.ca, you can find links to everything. Pre-game, post-game, live always, and lots of other fun stuff planned for the season as well. But really looking forward to the Wild West this year. One more year of Canadian football as we know it before they start changing the field and the goalposts and all that stuff, right? Yeah, for sure. I think the West is going to be a dogfight. All right, Darrin, thanks a lot, thanks, and all the best this season. My pleasure, guys. Have a great one. All right, cheers. All right, that was Darrin Bauming, Bonfire Sports. Very insightful look at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as we head into Friday and the final preseason game with the BC Lions. Any thoughts on that, Cole? Yeah, that was awesome. I think Darrin brings a ton of great insight. He's with Bonfire After Dark and stuff like that. If the Bombers are playing on a non-BC Lions day and it's a pretty good game and it ends, and I'm kind of wanting to consume some more CFL content or whatever, I'll definitely tune on Schnitzy.
And I know Wallaby from time to time is pretty crazy, and when he gets on there active after post game, he has some takes and he stands on them, which is great. I think if you have, everyone has an opinion, right? So we need more of this CFL content community to come out and stuff like that. And I think Darrin brings very calculated takes as well, stuff that's thought out. It's not just off the cuff. And he's also he's there, he's at practice and stuff like that. He's not just saying stuff from third party and all that stuff. It's his opinion and stuff. So I think he does a ton of good coverage. So I would encourage people to if their Lions aren't playing or whatnot, and you guys are wanting to consume more CFL coverage, check them out.
Yeah, for sure. Head over to their YouTube channel and subscribe. Eric Core, I did see your question about ticket sales for the Argo game in Winnipeg. I didn't throw it up there because we were running a bit long with Darrin, but I look, it's basically another home game for the Bombers, so I think it's going to be sold out regardless. So, they're going to take advantage of that, I'm sure. Okay. Let's kind of switch gears here. Well, we'll stay on track with the Bombers and Lions. And talk about that game a little bit.
So did you see Nathan on 650 this morning, or maybe it was yesterday morning?
I did not, yeah.
So he confirmed that he's going to play. He didn't say how long though, but he did mention that the plan was for him to play on Friday and get some game action. I think that makes the most sense. I think just the question is now, how long do you go? As I mentioned, they're going to have the week 1 bye, so it'll be basically 2 weeks till the next time they play. For me personally, I think a quarter is perfect. You get them out there, you let them hand the ball off a couple times, maybe play action. I would encourage, maybe if we drop back, let's max protect that sucker. Let's keep as many guys in protection as we can. And then, like I said, kind of just get him a little bit more chemistry with Mayala and maybe some of the guys that are, I believe Seven McGee's been getting some reps as well with the ones, some guys that maybe he's not familiar with in some game settings. And then other than that, I'm pretty good. I know what to expect from Nathan Rourke. He's going to come out. He's going to perform. He's going to be the MOC caliber player that he is. And as you said last week, Brian, Bombers and Riders fans are going to wait for the opportunity to try to dunk all over him. And that'll be just fine for me because we have Nathan Rourke and they don't.
Yep. I'll take Nathan Rourke over any quarterback in the league any day.
Right.
But here's the thing with me. I think I agree with you. I think a quarter is good, and even less than a quarter. I mean, if he comes out and has 2 successful drives and feels like he's feeling it or whatever, and looks comfortable, and get him out of there. Obviously, the starting offensive line is going to be in the game while he's in. No question about that. That's what I'm kind of watching. I'm very interested to watch the tackle spots on Friday, particularly the right side. I think Corey Woodruff is going to be serviceable on the left. We haven't heard anything otherwise from camp. Obviously, when the games get real and stuff, things can change. But I'm more concerned with how Dejon Allen's going to play. He's back in training camp now. He's been practicing. So let's see if he can have an impact. I'd like to see Horvath and Butler get a few carries each, just to kind of get an idea how they're going to handle things there. But other than that, I think by the second half, I think in the second quarter you're going to see Chase Bryce, and he'll probably get the second and third quarters. From what I've been understanding, they'll probably let Caden Salter and Jared Daggy wrap up in the fourth. Maybe Salter will get a bit of a look in the third quarter, but I did read that they're going to give Chase the bulk of the work in this game. So that's fine with me. I think that's a good plan. As an Eric Kors just said, just keep him healthy. Yes, sir. That's the plan. Absolutely. What else am I looking forward to? I think the defensive line, I heard Levi Bell missed practice today. I'm not sure what his issue is, but maybe he may not dress. But I am interested in watching the defensive line. I'm looking forward to a few reps from Darnell Sankey and the linebacking core. Look, we didn't see any starters last week, so we want to get a little taste in our mouths before,
before week 1 bye.
Before week 1 bye. And I was thinking about this. The Lions are going to have 2 weeks to prepare for their first game. The Riders are done with their preseason, so they don't play this week. So they're basically going to have 3 weeks before their first game.
Yeah.
So, that's probably why they played the bulk of their starters in their final preseason game against Winnipeg, just to make sure those guys got some reps. And I think the Lions will do much of the same. I watched the First and Now podcast. They had Neil McAvoy on, and he said they were going to be bringing as many guys as possible to Winnipeg just to, make sure everybody, gets the looks they need to and the reps that they need to feel comfortable heading into the season. And the Lions haven't really made any cuts since that last preseason game. I think they released Tony Jones and not Tony Jones. Is it Tony Jones?
Yeah, it was Tony Jones, the running back. Winnipeg also has the linebacker.
Yeah, that's why I got.
Yeah,
I was wondering if I was getting that confused.
No, you're good.
But Jones was cut, and what's the DB's name that was cut? Anyway, they cut a DB that had a rough day on Saturday. Those are the only 2 cuts, and then they actually brought back Pierre Dawson. So obviously they're looking at bringing in or having another look at some of the guys that played last week. That's good news for them. I expected more cuts coming out of that game, to be honest. Eric has another comment here. Moj, I'm assuming he's talking about Bob Marjanovic, was not impressed with the pass rush last week. Let's hope it gets better with this week. I'm in the same boat as Moj. I was not impressed with the performance of the defensive line. In fact, Edmonton was running the ball right up the middle on us for most of that second half, and with very little resistance. Raylan Goforth and Parker McKenna led the team in tackles, and with good reason, because the running backs were getting to the second level like constantly in that second half. So yes, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what more starters on the defensive line can do.
That's what I was going to say. I think this week will probably be a little bit more of a better true test. I think outside of Hayden Harris, there might not have been a guy that's going to be in the rotation truly this year in less injury. So guys obviously like the addition of a Casey Sale, Jonah Tavai. You have the guys behind him like a Thibaut Tabaye, Thomas Lelele, and a few of those other depth options in the interior. I'm excited to see those guys, because I think those guys, not only do they have the firepower up front, they have the depth behind them to, I think, contribute. Comfortable enough to let go of a Christian Covington before camp with the guys that they have in that room. And then obviously you mentioned a guy like Levi Bell, who, we had the Bradley and Nye situation, I believe about a week and a half ago now. So you're down one defensive lineman, and then kind of not knowing what Levi Bell's status is for this weekend. It makes even more sense now that, the re-signing of Sione Tiama early in the offseason. I believe it was around maybe December or January, pretty early in terms of moves, where it was like, well, this is kind of an interesting one early on when you have the season that Bell and I just had came off of. When they come into the lineup, they make plays. It's like, well, where's Sione's kind of fit? Because you obviously Betts is a made man. You're not taking snaps away from him. So it's kind of good now that we have that depth behind us on the team, where you have a guy like Sione Tiama who can step up. He's been a starter in the past. When he's healthy, he's usually a pretty good contributor around 5, 6, 7 stacks. Opposite of a guy like Matthew Betts, hopefully that uptakes a few. So the one thing that I wanted to kind of throw towards you, Brian, and I know we talked about it when the schedule came out, but I believe I looked at it again today, and with the Lions having the week 1 bye and not looking at any other teams last bye week, but I believe the Lions will probably have the earliest first 2 bye weeks. I believe their second bye week is in week 6.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, it's go time, right? And
it's unfortunate. I mean, you want to have your buys obviously later in the season when you're a bit nicked up and let some bumps and bruises heal. But I mean, let's face it, this is a weird season for the Lions, right? Like, it's going to be tough.
I think it puts even more emphasis on the 1 seed this year to not only that we've talked about it year after year of making sure the West Final is in BC place, that we're not having to go to Saskatchewan anymore. We're not having to go to Winnipeg anymore. God forbid it's in Alberta. We don't have to go there. Now, with your bye week being over in week 6, and you have that slog of a season to finish, and those games, as we said, the Wild Wild West, those games are important. Everyone trying to dumb down the season doesn't start till Labor Day is not right. So we've seen it year after year of these losses come August and July cost us come the playoff race. So now even when you don't have a bye week, it's like, man, the urgency for that 1 seed and to take care of business to reassure that we can kind of recharge the batteries going into playoffs, I feel like heightens even more.
Tough schedule for sure. But I mean, there's some positives too. I mean, a lot of their home games are going to be in the back end of the season when you're really trying to push for those playoff spots. So, look, the West is a hell of a division. People want to ask me like what I predict for the West. I mean, I was thrilled to hear Darrin Bauming has the Lions winning the Grey Cup this year, but it's going to be tough, man. Like I look at the West and from top to bottom, I think any team could come out of the West and be in the Grey Cup this year. So, it's going to be tough. So yeah, we'll look forward to Friday. Last week we did a watch party in here. We had like 84 people in here watching the game with us. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to confirm with the wife what our plans are. But if we don't do the watch party, we'll probably do a post-game show. So I don't know if you're available, but we'll definitely fire something up either during the game or after the game. And something I kind of want to do this year, especially for the road games, is give Lions fans a place to come and talk about the game. And obviously we won't have any players on or anything like that, but we can certainly have a discussion as a fan base and talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, wins, losses, all that kind of thing. So we'll try and do some of that this year for sure. All right, Cole, you've got a surprise that you haven't told me about. You're going to spring it on us now.
Yeah, so I would encourage everybody that is watching, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. If you aren't on YouTube, I would encourage you guys to come on over so you guys can comment along. So, Brian, I wanted to maybe start something we could end episodes, whether it's kind of like some trivia or something. So I wanted to run by you a quick segment that we could do. But first, I need you to pick either BC Lions quarterbacks or BC Lions receivers.
We talk about Rourke all the time, so let's go with receivers.
Okay, Brian. So I think you've probably seen this before. It's a social media trend that's been going around. It's the blind rankings. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you 5 BC Lions receivers, and then I'm going to get you to rank them blindly. So obviously, first one I'll give you, you put it in 1. You can't put anybody else in 1, and so on and so forth. Okay, Brian?
Okay.
Okay, so as I mentioned, anybody that is wanting to play along in the chat, feel free to let us know in the chat. So, Brian, my first one for you is Brian Burnham.
So I got 1 to 5. I'm getting 5.
Yeah.
Brian Burnham, 2.
Okay, so Brian has taken away the 2 spot with Brian Burnham. So my next receiver for you, Brian, is Darren Flutie. So for some of the people that are maybe a little bit younger, Darren, I believe, was on some of the 90s BC Lions teams, a part of the 94 Grey Cup, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe he's top 5 in a pretty significant amount of receiving categories.
I'll put him at 5 because he wasn't a Lion for his whole career.
Okay. My next one for you is Manny Arsenault.
4.
Okay, so we have 1, and is it 3 left, Brian? I believe you had 2 was Brian Burnham. You had 5 as Darren Flutie, and then 4 as Manny Arsenault.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna go with 1 Swervin Mervin Fernandez.
Oh damn. Well, I'll stick him in the 3 spot because I'm thinking who's going to be number 1. I don't know if you're going to name him or not, but
I could always just do the touchdown celebration.
There you go. So yeah, I'll put Swervin Mervin 3. And had I known you were going to throw him out there, he might have gone 2. But Burnham was a Lion for longer. But no doubt, Swervin Mervin is probably one of the greatest Lions receivers I've ever seen. I remember a pass. They were playing the Ottawa Rough Riders back then at BC Place, and I was at the game, and I remember Roy DeWalt stepping back in the pocket and throwing a pass right over the middle, and in mid-stride, Fernandez reached out with 1 hand and grabbed the ball and just took it to the end zone. One hand, he got the ball in mid-stride. It was a bullet pass, and I was just like blown away. But that guy was so good, and if he had stayed in the Canadian Football League, man, there would be some records that might not be ever broken. But I'll put him in the 3 spot because I know that G. Roy Simon is going into number 1.
You gotta put Superman at 1 for sure, Brian. So I thought, Brian, we could maybe do what I was thinking is maybe do like we did with ours is we did like a 35-second play clock segment where we ended stuff and we had like just like trivia questions, but we could also do like blind rankings or like start bench cut and maybe just have a fun way to like kind of end the show and get the chat involved a little bit.
Sure. I mean, we're not getting many chatters in here tonight, but like we got 32 people watching. I don't know why nobody's talking.
That's
Mr.
okay.
Eric Cork
I
can participate if he wants.
I think it'll uptick as well once we start to do, like post game stuff.
Yep.
But I had a ton of like I said, I had quarterbacks. We have BC Lions defensive backs. We had some BC Lions kickers, I think, in there as well. So I thought it'd just be a fun, interactive way we can maybe kind of get involved with the chat a little bit to end the show.
Sounds good.
But yeah, Brian. So we're thinking maybe hopefully do something for Friday.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I'm going to confirm with my wife. If she wants to watch the game, I'll probably watch the game with her. And she may not. It's a preseason game, so she might find something else to do. If she is not wanting to do that, we'll maybe do a live watch party again, or we'll definitely do a post-game show. I think the post-game show I'm leaning towards the post-game show at this time. Because I do really want to pay attention to this game, especially in the first half, and get an idea what the Lions are looking like.
Yeah, I agree, Brian. I think a post game would be nice, and I think it was one of our more like attended shows last year when we were doing some post game stuff and some preview stuff for the Lions. Where, as you said, there's no really kind of not 1040. Is it 760?
I think it's NW now. Well, I think there's 730.
Whatever Moj and Julia are on, they give us about 30 minutes ish. It's not quite an hour of post game stuff where they do cut down to the locker room. I do believe they get like a player interview. But like after that, as you said, Brian, there's nothing, right? We don't get really much on TSN. If you're like not the earlier game, usually it kind of just goes to Sports Center after, right, where they're kind of recapping the night of sports, opposed to getting a little bit more coverage from the panel and stuff like that, kind of a little bit more of their breakdown when the 4:00 game ends, leading up to the 7:00 game. Obviously they go back to the panel, they get to kind of break it down a little bit, where we don't get that luxury. So I think it would be an awesome way to kind of do some more content, and then, as you said, kind of more with the road games, because we'll obviously be a little bit more busier for home games and stuff like that, but it still does work out from time to time.
Well, I know, just being on Twitter, the conversation the Lions have after games, we can bring that in here. We'll try and provide that void that we've been lacking since sports radio kind of died in Vancouver. I mean, Sportsnet 650 doesn't really care about the Lions and never have. So
I was pretty shocked to see that they had Nathan Rourke on.
They'll do that once in a while, but
I follow them just because they're kind of local sports and don't really listen to them much, and they're just on one of my like automatic downloads, and I saw Nathan Rourke was in the headline. I was like, what the heck? So I clicked on it and I was like, oh man, they had a Nathan Rourke interview. Like this never happens.
Want some Lions coverage? Don and Dolly.
Yes,
check them out on X. They're big Lions supporters. Don Taylor and Rick Dollywell.
I was just wearing my D&D shirt to work today.
There you go. All right, I think that about does it for us. Lions and Bombers this Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific time from Winnipeg. We're going to get a much better idea of how the BC Lions are lining up this heading into 26. So that's going to be fun to watch. We'll get our first look at the offense and the defense with some starters in there. So looking forward to that. We'll see what the Bombers do, but always interesting when the Bombers and Lions get together, whether it's preseason or not. Till then, I'm Brian Wawrishin. He is Cole McGarvey. Thanks for watching, everybody. And as always, roar you Lions, roar.